So I'm going to be incredibly honest. The real Snad, thank you for the brand new tier 1 sub. My enthusiasm's been a little bit low because Uro and Friends are still legal. So I haven't actually looked through the full set spoiler yet. I've like caught bits and pieces of things. So I'm going to take a second here. And Taurus, thanks for the 20 months. Wakerster, thanks for the brand new Prime support. I think I'm going to take a second. I don't plan to do a full card review because I think those are kind of silly, but I think I'm going to start by just scrolling. I'm not going to do a set review, but I'm going to scroll the entirety of the set so I can familiarize myself with things I might want to be including in decks that we're gonna be building here today. Bowser Koopa, thank you for the 35 months. Welcome back. You can be pretty forgiving during these. I've got sub mode on, so that should keep too much nonsense to a minimum. These mythic flip cards are great. God, Scryfall's great. I could sit here and flip them over. This card, I accepted a build around for, but I think there's a good chance this is probably a little bit too slow. Equal to the number of lands you control, non-token creatures you control, are forests in addition to their other types. That's cute. Insert wit. I've been loving Morrowind. Takes me back to young me who had no idea what was going on and mostly ambled, looking lost, blanking, stared at roadsides until something murdered me. Thanks for the 17 buds. Yeah, we hit a little bit of a roadblock in our Morrowind playthrough this morning, but I think I figured out what I want to do, and we'll be back at it next week for sure. Angel of Destiny. I took a build around for this in Historic, which I don't think we're going to build tonight. But this could be okay in a Soul Sister shell as a finisher. This card is one I've rejected a couple. I rejected a couple of build around submissions for because it seems a little bit slow and clunky on average. This looks like mostly an EDH card, but we'll see if I eat crow on that. It has pretty tough requirements to get value with it, and doesn't do anything the turn it comes into play as a 5-drop. Another mythic land. These bolt lands, most of these bolt lands are good. I think the blue bolt land's probably the worst of them, and that one's still probably playable. This card's gas. I don't know what exactly we're doing with this, but it's gonna be something. There's a small possibility. Yeah. Scryfall does unfortunately put the card twice with the border next to it. It's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. This card kind of has a dies effect, but it doesn't do anything if you play it on 4 and they immediately kill it, so that might be restraining. That being said, like, the stat line's pretty good. Hey, Muse of Castamere, thank you for the half a year. I appreciate that. Welcome. Our first build around this evening is going to be Fury of Akam. Whenever a lane enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this. The beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. So this card's neat. They did at least have the forethought. They at least have the forethought on this card to make it only trigger during your main phase. So that way Uro attacking and putting lands into play doesn't happen. Yeah, I hope. I told Christy said she was going to. Okay, Christy said she has secured me a PS5. It's the first time I've owned a current generation console. I guess the Switch counts as a current generation console. I've ordered a PS5 and I plan to stream with it when it comes out to continue. I plan to continue my variety segments. Nahiri, Heir of Ancients, White Core Knight. Makes white knight tokens. That's perfect. Top 6 cards of your deck. You may reveal a warrior or equipment from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. Deals damage to a creature or planeswalker equal to twice the number of equipments you control. It's probably sweet. There's probably a Warriors deck in this format. Warrior, sorry, Warrior or equipment. I probably said the word knight. Yeah, Warriors. There's a Warrior. There's a Warrior Lord. There's a Warrior Lord in this set, right? And Embercleave is still legal. So, like, could see this being an okay top end to help you find your Embercleaves. You could, like, play her as, like, Embercleaves 5 and 6, basically. Yeah, this Nissa isn't that impressive. I think a lot of people at first glance thought that this card was going to be better than it was because of Worldwaker that's just rotating out. But the fact that her lands are only creatures for a turn cycle is a big deal. Really big deal. Omnath, Locust of Creation, probably okay somewhere in a format where Uro is legal. If the mana works, you have a bunch of Triomes, so the mana's probably fine with Jeskai and Temur Triome. Scourge of Skyclaves seems sweet. This feels like a fixed Death Shadow. This is the not quite Snapcaster Mage, right? Enters the battlefield, copy the next instant or sorcery converted mana cost 2 or less when you cast it this turn. If it was kicked, copy it twice. Yeah, this card's good. It's probably playable in a Wizards deck in Historic, maybe. I don't know exactly what other like a card like this is largely defined by like what support it has around it. So like the power level of like 1, 2, and 3 mana, maybe instants and sorceries will largely dictate how good this card is. The stat line on it is a little weak for the mana cost, but it is a wizard, so like if the I'm kind of skeptical if the party mechanics gonna end up too constructed playable, but if it does, something like this might be okay. Like if there's enough cards that just like party types incidentally. This card's great. These bolt lands are great. They're gonna go in most things. Like I said, I feel like these bolt double lands are like the monkey paws answer to players complaining they have too many mythic wild cards. Just like, all right, here's 20 mythics you have to craft. Enjoy. Whenever you attack a player with one or more equipped creatures, draw a card. I mean, unattached equipment. You may attach. You may unattach equipment for a creature you control. If you do tap that creature, it gains indestructible. It's probably slow. It's a shame that this isn't free in terms of mana cost, so it's going to be hard to hold up mana for sweepers a lot of the time. Power is equal to the number of creatures in your party. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, target creature gets 1/1 and gains flying. It is a it is an incredible letdown that the party land comes into play tapped. So there's an uncommon land that makes mana of any color for party types, and like if that land came into play untapped, like maybe something like this could headline a party focused aggressive deck, but like without the better fixing, I'd be pretty surprised if that's the case. Go 9 crazy deck. Yeah, every evening during the week we're doing streams now. This Crab's hilarious. I don't know if it's good, but it's hilarious. Confounding Conundrum's gonna be real funny in Fetch Land and Ghost Quarter formats. Definitely gonna use this card to make people sad. Didn't get a tournament ground like lands. It did, a crappy lawyer. It just comes into play tapped because Wizards hates giving aggressive decks decent mana. Costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. Search your library for a card and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. If you have a full party, you may cast a spell with converted mana cost 4 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Wait, what? Search your library for a card, put it into your hand. Then if you have a full party, you may cast a spell, convert a mana cost 4 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. And this just costs 1 black if you have a full party. Okay, so like again, talking about the party mechanic, like this is like a pretty sick payoff, huh? Like it's 1 black, get any card, and then cast a 4 mana spell. Gets company and cast company. Ooh, that's a good thought. That's actually a really sweet thought. Yeah. Yeah, that actually sounds sweet with collected company party deck in historic. Yeah, yeah, I'm interested to see like that's something to look at too. Like what are all the typings and everything that you have, but like this is a card where like okay, this could be worth the making that party happen. What happens if they kill a party member in response to the spell? Then you don't get the extra effect. So you get the reduced casting cost when you cast it, but they can obviously kill party members in response. Ooh, that's a good thought. This could be a Winota card. We should look at card types for Winota. But they banned Winota in Historic because Wizards doesn't know how to manage their formats, and they could have banned Angrass Marauders. So I can't play this card in the non-rotating format. Look at that. Mari God, 10-10 Hammer on the ball with the Winota. Crag Plate Baloth. Can't be countered. Hexproof. Haste. If it's kicked, it gets 4/1/1 counters. Man, remember when Carnage Tyrant was a card people wanted banned? I guess this card doesn't trample. Hey, Rhino, thanks for the 20 bucks. I appreciate it. Welcome back. I guess this card doesn't trample. This card's gasoline, crawling barriers, barons. However good you think this card is, it's probably better. So a really good comparable card to crawling barons is Raging Ravine for people not familiar. So this land attacks as a 4/4 for 4 mana. So you basically pay 5 to attack for 4, then 5, then 6, then 7. And this, while it doesn't provide fixing, this is 4 mana attack for 2, 4 mana attack for 4, 4 mana attack for 6. So the question will be like, can you support this in your mana bases? One thing that's neat is you can pay multiple mana to put more counters on it. And notable that this doesn't have to attack to get the counters. So you can just like pay 4 mana at the end of your opponent's turn to give it 2 counters, which is nice too. Glasspool Mimic is a land on the backside. This card's probably playable. A lot of the rares in this cycle seem really good. This card is very, very good. Just for sometimes actual murder if your opponent doesn't have basic lands, but just like is a land sometimes too. This is easily a black staple. Skyclave Ranger, 3/1 counters on it. Whenever their creature you control dies, put 1 counter, put 1 counter on this when it dies. X green black Hydra, X is the number of counters on it. This is kind of sweet. So one of the things that really jumps out to me about this card is that this is a legendary creature that notably is not a dead draw. Is not a dead draw when you draw multiple of them. So like if you have one of these in play and you have nothing else to do, you can play a second from your hand, and when the second one dies, it makes the original one bigger, and the second one will leave behind a token too, which is great. So I like this card. Yeah, it's very, very similar to NX. I agree. So like that's not, you don't want to do that with it, but it's something that like legendary cards that are powerful that like don't punish you for drawing multiple of them as badly as they otherwise would tend to be reasonable. Inscription of Abundance. Choose one. If this spell was kicked, choose any number. 1/1 counters. Target player gains X life or X the greatest power. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. That's kind of sweet. Instant speed fight cards tend to be good. And this is one of the sweet things about this card is it is a fight card that like has text against control, and that it can just like be a combat trick and pump your thing, and like sometimes getting the full bonus good. We got a whole cycle of inscriptions. All right. Did we get a full cycle, or is just 3 of them? Did they do that? Is there no red and no white inscription? Are they just missing? Just 3. Damn it, Watsy. American Gamer, thanks for the 23 months. I appreciate it. Welcome back. I hate when they leave incomplete cycles. All right, these 2 are sorceries. Choose one. If the spell is kicked, choose any number. Yep. Return 2 target creatures in their hand. Scry 2, draw 2. Target player gets XX illusion, where X is the number of cards in their hand. That's fine. Discard. Return target creature. Converted mana cost 2 or less. Destroy target creature with converted mana cost 3 or more. That's okay. It's mind rot, I guess. Flexible. I guess there's formats where like mind rot's like almost constructed playable, and this is flexible enough that like it can Doomblade things. Yeah, is this all right, Magic players in the audience? Someone give me an instance where this card is not strictly better than mind rot. Does mind rot target yourself? Can you target yourself with mind rot? Target player. All right, so it's not strictly better mind rot, chat. You cannot target yourself with Inscription of Ruin, so that way you can enable your madness cards or to get yourself hellbent. So, not strictly better. Actually, this card seems great. We talked about maybe there being warriors. Cowards can't block warriors. Choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Target creature becomes a coward. Target warrior gains trample. This gets +1/+1. So, like, okay stat line for an aggressive card. Gives you a form of evasion. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I saw some discussion about this. If you make something a coward, it loses all other creature types, right? Yeah, so if you play Intimidator with Winota, you can turn your humans into cowards, so that way they trigger the Winota when she attacks. Can I get a flavor judge ruling on humans no longer being cowards? Or cowards no longer being humans? How do we feel about that from a flavor judge perspective? Alexander the Great would agree with you. All humans are cowards in some way. Mammoth seems great. It's again the rare cycle. They come into play tapped, but they're pretty reasonable spells on the front side. So I expect this to do stuff. Mammoth's good. Mammoth seems playable. Royal Chaser, Flying Haste. The next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X less to cast, where X is the number of wizards you control as this ability resolves. That doesn't seem very useful. Seems like a mediocre power effect. A 1/2 Flying Haste for 2 doesn't seem like a very impressive stat line. This card's weird. This is a weird Squadron Hawk. What's up, dude? There is school tomorrow. Bedtime soon. Ask mom how long you have before bedtime. No. The kid's smart, chat. The kid's smart. I think it's probably 2 of these with 2 in the sideboard. I don't know. So something that I kind of dislike that they've been doing is I dislike that cards like Legion Angel are so much worse in best of 3 as opposed to best of 1, where your sideboard cards don't matter. Yeah, I really feel like with all these wish style effects and things like this that they're doing, I feel like for competitive Magic, we need another zone that has like 4 to 5 slots in it that like you can put things like this. Hey, Wonton, thank you for the quarter of a year. I appreciate that. Thanks for keeping me around. Yeah, evening streams are going to be the norm here, and with Magic rotating finally, we're going to be doing Magic in the evenings too, pretty consistently. Dorian, thank you for 19 months. Welcome back. Yeah, I wish that we just had a different zone for that. And I don't want a bigger sideboard. I just like want a different zone where like you only wish for cards from. Hey, like it is. Thanks to 11 months. So September discount applies to all sub tiers, Jin, but it doesn't apply if you're already a paid sub. This card's very good. So Linvala is just a bucket of text, but for Linvala to note here, 3/3 flying for 3 with sacrifice Linvala, choose hexproof or indestructible creature you control, gain that till end of turn. This card is playable without this paragraph in the middle. So like, don't get distracted by the fact that like there's this blurb here about party, because like this might be a thing that happened. This might be a thing that happens, but that's not why you're going to play the card. Yeah, the Collected Company in Historic and Pioneer and other sets too are getting a ton of upgrades in this set. Like this card is huge for Collected Company decks. Like having a selfless spirit style effect is good. Animated Mellow, thanks for 38 months. Welcome back. Lotus Cobra is great. They downgraded Lotus Cobra to a rare, which is great. This card's absurd with Winota. You'll play Lotus Cobra on 2. You'll play a land on 3. You'll cast Winota with the extra mana. You'll attack with Lotus Cobra and trigger Winota. Again, another card that makes me very, very sad that they banned Winota in Historic instead of banning Angrass Marauders. Winota's a sweet card, and I wish they would have just banned the powerful payoff instead of banning her altogether. The beginning of combat on your turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. The base stat line on this, I guess. Hey, Sock Lobster, thanks for the brand new tier 1 sub. I appreciate that. Welcome to Oglandia. This is, I was gonna say this is bad at a glance, but I suppose if you think about it, this is kind of a 2/2 for 2 that then scales up. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if this is unplayable, but like, this is the type of card where if the party mechanic is close to playable, or if like one of the party payoffs is good, this could be a card because it's a cleric, like enabling the party mechanic on it could make it good enough. Yeah, it could also be reasonable. There's green white counters cards, like +1/+1 counter synergies in the format. So this could be a card where it's close to good enough on its own, but then its synergies with other things also put it up over the top there. So it could be synergies with party payoff, could be synergies with the green white counters payoff. Each opponent mills 8 cards. If the spell was kicked, they mill half their library rounded up. Cute. This card seems super reasonable. Chandler, there are 4 or more instants or sorceries in your graveyard. Gets +3/+1. Discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library, and choose one of them. You may play that card this turn. So it's a beater. It generates some card advantage. Thanks for the 29 months, G-Money. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Master of Wind. Enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery or wizard spell, you may flip its base power and toughness. I wish this card had flash. The fact that it draws and discards might be enough, but I do really wish it had flash. Master of Winds feels like hot garbage. I don't know. The stat line's okay. It'll kill people okay. Might be fine. Depends on a card like this. I think really depends on what the stat lines of other thing in the formats end up looking like, because this card, like, if a 1/4 is an okay blocker against the aggressive decks, this card could be fine. But if like 4 toughness isn't enough for it to get into combat and survive, then it's probably not good enough. You're right. So like this is the type of card where it's gonna live or die based on like what the metagame shakes out to be, which is why it's tough to build control decks early. It would have been better when damage used the stack. You're not wrong. This card seems sweet. Someone mentioned this with Nahiri earlier. Love just this continued design similar to Embercleave, where equipment's equip when they come into play. Gives them a lot more playability. This gives flying in first strike, so it seems like a lot less offensive version of Embercleave. Gives you a way to push damage, but not quite as powerful. Also a little bit more consistent. Always 3 mana instead of just sometimes being cheaper. Midway Monster, thank you for the 19 months. Welcome back. I appreciate it. Lithoformings, kind of a weird card. It's like it's not quite strictly worse scape shift. It's more like different scape shift in a way. This card could be there's a red enchantment that draws cards kind of when you make land drops that this could be good with. Nighthawk Scavenger, super playable. Flying, Death Touch, Lifelink, Vampire Nighthawk, likely going to be bigger than Vampire Nighthawk a lot of the time, unless they don't have a graveyard, so 1 plus the number of card types in your opponent's graveyards. I like there's reminder text here that you don't count the backside of cards. Nimble Trap Finder can't be blocked. If you had Cleric, Rogue, Wizard, Warrior enter the battlefield your turn. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, creature you control get whenever this deals combat to its player, draw a card. It's a neat one. Can't be blocked if you had another party member enter the battlefield this turn. And then it draws cards if you have a full party. Maybe okay. When does it go live tomorrow? It goes live usually 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. PST. I see you, tiny child. Menace, lifelink, when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target creature card. Wait, what? Menace, lifelink, when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This card's lit. This card seems great, huh? Like 2/1 Menace, lifelink is like a fine stat line. It's a cleric. This is technically a vampire. This could make vampires a lot better in Historic 2. Like being an OK 2-drop with evasion in the form of Menace, and then the fact that it scales up as you flood out sounds excellent. Hey, the real, never feel bad about asking questions. I think someone got you on the Discord server there. There was an issue. I've seen it in a second. Destroy all non-land permanents. Believe it or not, the rare flip cards continue to be playable. Skyclave, Hierophant. When this or another cleric you control dies, return target cleric with a lesser converted mana cost from your graveyard to the battlefield. This could be okay. Depends on what the other clerics look like. Orin Reap Ooze enters the battlefield, put a 1 counter on target creature you control. When it attacks, put a 1/1 counter on each attacking creature with a 1 counter on it. So there, +1/+1 counter payoff. World Sculptor. Well, welcome to a live one, the real Slant. Good to have you playing in the event this weekend. World Sculptor enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green plant creature token for each basic land you control. Huh? Whenever land is battlefield under your control, put 4 1/1 counters on target plant you control. That gets pretty big pretty quick. Having to have basic lands is a really big deal. Yeah, feels like a Avenger of Zendikar 2, the Electric Boogaloo for sure. It says, like, did my 6 mana 5/5 really need the word basic on it? Yeah, like definitely feels like kind of be surprised if that's constructed playable. Relic Robber deals combat damage to a player. That player creates a 0/1 cause Goblin contract every token with this can't block at the beginning of your upkeep. This deals what? Deals damage to a player. They create a 0/1 colorless goblin construct artifact creature token. This creature can't block at the beginning of your upkeep. This creature deals 1 damage to you. That design is weird. Huh? I don't I don't know that I don't know if this card's like actually good though. So like, yeah, so like if you think about this card against creature decks, it's going to have a hard time attacking. And against control decks, they're going to have sweepers that get rid of these tokens even though they can't block, right? So yeah, I think the design on this is really neat. I think in terms of how playable it is, it doesn't really seem very good. This card's Gasoline, Whirling Vortex. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, this deals 1 damage to them. Big Sulfuric Vortex energy here. This was very obviously intended as a way to target. What's the card they banned, chat? Fires of Invention. This is very obviously an anti Fires of Invention design. Scut Swarm is here to remind us that Arena cannot and should not be a game that people play on their mobile cell phones. Really excited to see Scut Swarm melt people's cell phones here in the next coming months when they try and port that one. Exile all creatures and planeswalkers that cost 3 or less from the battlefield and creature and planeswalkers from graveyard. So you can exile your opponent's Uro after it already drew them a card and put a land into play. Four, 3 trample haste. If it was kicked, it gets a counter on it. At the beginning of your end step, if it doesn't have a 1/1 counter on it, return it to its owner's hand. So this is kind of sweet with this one, right? So you can curve aspirant into this and keep it in play as a 5/4 on 3. Yeah, and like that's cleric warrior for your party. Hey, thanks for the 13 months, Kevin. I appreciate that. Yeah, this seems great. That sounds like a great start to a warrior deck. Or even just red white aggro, not even necessarily warrior, just a cleric into this, and maybe look and see if there's a party payoff. Skyclave Apparition is absurd. I mentioned that Collecting Company is going to get better in Historic. This is a card that will be good in Historic and probably very good in Standard as well. It's also a Spirit for Historic. Can't block. If it was kicked, to give it some counters. Landfall. If it's in your graveyard and it's your turn, you may cast it from your graveyard this turn. This is fixed Bloodghast. This card seems good. You may cast it from your graveyard this turn, so you can cast it kicked too. So in the late game when you're drawing lands, this is a repeatable 5/3. Each opponent sacrifices a creature, planeswalker with a high converted mana cost among creatures or planeswalkers they control. Cute. I think calling it bad Gast is not accurate. I think it's just kind of different. Enters, make a 1/1 for each creature in your party. Beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, creatures you control get 1/0 and gain indestructible. And this always makes at least one because it's a warrior. This is a sweet card. Again, looking at the 1/1 counters archetype, having a good 1-drop seems very important, and that's definitely a very good 1-drop. Pelt Collector's rotating, right? Is that one a rotato? I think so. Yeah, so we've been playing with that one for a while. Has lifelink, as long as it is 5 or more +1/+1 counters on it. For a non-token creature you control dies, put a 1/1 counter. If it was a cleric, you may draw a card if you do lose 1 life. It's kind of a sweet cleric payoff. Hey, Cody, thank you for the generous tier 2. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Enters the battlefield. If it was kicked, reveal the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a creature that shares a type from among them on the bottom in your hand, put the rest of the bottom in any order. This is a neat filler. So it's all 4 party types, but it only counts for 1 at any given point in terms of having a full party. So it basically fills whatever role you're missing, and it's like an okay stat line at a 3/2 for 2. How much is a standard deck right now? Arena deck submissions are $25. Thieving Skydiver. Kicked, gain control of an artifact. If it is an artifact, equip it to Thieving Skydiver. Oh yeah, I've rejected a couple build around submissions for this and the Silly Hammer. Put a charge counter. Add 2 mana of any color. Only spend this mana to cast kick spells. Valakut's Awakening. Again, continuing the cycle of this rare cycle being very good. Play number of cards from your hand to the bottom of your library. Draw that many cards +1. Valakut Exploration could be cute in some kind of combo style shell. 1/1 counter on to cast it for each mana spent to cast it. This is a really neat design because it's not getting based on X. Like if you can play this as a 2-drop, as a 2/2. Whenever you cast a kick spell, you may remove 2 counters from it. If you do copy that spell, you may choose new targets for that copy. It's interesting. This card's Gasoline. Big into the 4/4 for 4 that draws 2 and also has a prison aspect here. Something that is really sweet with this card is that it says players can't pay life or sacrifice non-land permanents to cast spells or abilities. If you pair this with the... God, Searching Dragon here is not going to be very useful, is it? If you pair this with the... in standard work. Nope, that didn't work. Terror. If you pair it with Terror of the Peaks, they can't kill it. Chat knew what we're talking about. Because Terror of the Peaks makes your opponent pay 3 life to target it. So if they can't pay life to target it, they just can't target this with removal. So it's a pretty nice curve. Thief of Heartbeats, Flying, Death Touch, Haste. Other creatures you control have Death Touch. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, destroy that planeswalker. ATL Red Ranger. Let's get your sword to go with that shield. Thanks for the entire year. I appreciate it. Welcome back. This card's great. So, I talked about is there proper, asking is there proper payoffs for party, and like this is a red-black party payoff that's super reasonable. And we looked at coveted prize here, which is also a party payoff. So I feel like if I wanted to build a deck around the party mechanic, starting in black is probably the best place to be. Acquisitions expert equals number of creatures in your party. Yep, was a fine payoff. Return unblocked attacking rogue. You control its owner's hand. Put this onto the battlefield. Oh, this has ninjutsu. Okay. Deals combat damage to player. You may put target permanent card from that graveyard. That player's graveyard on the battlefield under your control. That's cute. I dig ninjutsu, chat. Silafarian, thank you for the 35 months. Welcome back. Is there a build around submission for Mardu Party yet? I don't believe so. Thanks, Momstead. Yeah, it's pretty low effort to put all my stuff back up on YouTube. And then this, just we're gonna skim the uncommons really quick, but again, just to highlight it, I really wish Wizards would stop being afraid to give aggro decks good mana. I think a lot of the struggles that have happened with Magic recently are because they're afraid to give aggro decks good mana, and there isn't a good reason for this card to not come into play untapped. Like this, if the party, like, I'm not sure the party decks are going to be able to be constructed playable, and if they had this card, maybe they would be. This card is just coming into play tapped. It's very. I'd rather this effect be pushed rather than not playable. And I'm sure there's some line about limited and some other stupid excuse like that, but the base camp should be untapped. I'm not going to read all these individually, going to mostly skim. Bloodchief's Thirst could maybe do an okay Fatal Push impersonation in the Arcanist decks in Historic for the time being. This is kind of a cute landfall payoff. And cute, I mean the artwork's adorable. Not sure if the card's actually good. Blue-white is the only two-color combination that has all 4 party creature types in primary and secondary. For all the colors, you need to get a third. Sure. Journey to Oblivion. That's cute. Jawari Disruption. This card's probably worse than Censor, but worse Censor probably plays in Standard still. This is the Warrior payoff we were talking about earlier. Hey, I think I've seen enough. I think we're going to build decks. We spent almost an hour scrolling. We'll hit some of these other cards as I do card searches as we build decks. If you're watching this now, I'd love feedback on me idly scrolling the thing. I've never done like a formal set review before, and I think a lot of them waste times. I was mostly doing this because, usually I do something like this off stream. I scroll the cards and just get a feel for them. So that was my goal here. I'm not going to provide ratings on things or arbitrarily make stuff up so people can have scorecards, but I don't know. I basically just did my homework live instead of doing it in advance. So let me know if you're watching this on YouTube in the future. Leave a comment down below. I'm going to upload this as its own video. And if you're watching this on YouTube, there will also be a separate video that I'm going to upload of me building deck list submissions for the standard decks that are in the queue that are missing decks. So we're going to get to that now.